Bam, everybody. Welcome to this episode of The Branca Show from a remote location. I'm not at HQ today. I am, of course, attorney Andrew Branca, and we are here to talk about Karmelo Anthony in his trial for the murder of Austin Metcalf. The second day of the defense presenting testimony, and it is not going well. It is not going well for the defense. It looks like an implosion, a fiery detonation, a train wreck, controlled descent into terrain for Karmelo Anthony's defense. Do I still have to call it a murder trial, or can I just call it murder at this point? It is absolutely amazing and refreshing. The desperation, the flailing, the the testimony the defense is getting from its own witnesses completely undercuts any claim of self-defense here. It is remarkable. A lot of people are shocked by how quick the trial is going. I think they had scheduled 2 weeks for this. The truth is, most murder trials, folks, happen in a day or two. We're accustomed to only being aware of the very high-profile cases. Of course, those can sometimes take weeks. So this doesn't surprise me. What is surprising, I suppose, is how there's nothing here for the defense. There's literally nothing. It's unbelievable. And people are blaming his attorneys. You know, your attorney is stuck with the facts you give him. Even the best attorney in the world doesn't have a time machine, can't go back and change what you did. And if what you did was just murder a boy in plain sight, that's a tough case to win on self-defense when you don't have any actual evidence to support you. Now, before what I plan to do is I have summaries of the testimony that occurred Saturday and this morning from journalists. You know, they're not streaming this trial, but the journalists strike me, the ones I've chosen strike me as credible. I'll give them a shout out in just a moment because this, I'm basically pulling from their work product and they deserve credit for that. The most recent update we have is this. Just a few minutes ago, J.D. Miles is one of those journalists. He's a traditional CBS guy out of Dallas. The others are independent journalists. He writes, the judge, this is minutes ago, the judge has ordered an unexpected and lengthy lunch break following sidebar discussions with attorneys over something private. This would be the point of the trial where the defendant would likely testify if they are going to. So when we return to court at 12:30, which is 45 minutes ago, but of course everything's delayed because we don't have real-time information out of the courtroom. When we return to court at 12:30, will Karmelo Anthony be the next defense witness and presumably then the last defense witness? I think putting Karmelo Anthony on the witness stand would be a disaster, except the train is already off the bridge. You need a magic parachute to save this train wreck of a defense. I don't know that the defense has any alternative. Right now, they have nothing. Nothing. Maybe if Karmelo Anthony gets on the witness stand and starts weeping like a little baby, maybe the jury would have sympathy for him. I don't know what their hope is. I can't imagine in a million years that we're going to see an acquittal out of this. It is it's just absolutely crazy. And then I get comments like this, of course, from the monkey crowd. Mr. Mayonnaise Man, I guess that's me, Mr. Mayonnaise Man. Just stop. I want to see how red your face gets once Karmelo walks. And then he references Chud, and Chud Dalton Etherly gets convicted. And of course, my response is the same response I always have. It's why I don't predict jury verdicts. Nothing juries do surprises me. Juries are dangerous and unpredictable creatures. You know, like some people. Wink, wink. Karmelo Anthony. Is it possible a jury could acquit here? Sure. A rational jury? A fair, impartial, unbiased jury? Absolutely no. There's literally zero evidence in this testimony to support a legal justification of self-defense. And of course, the fact that Karmelo Anthony plunged a knife through the sternum into the heart of Austin Metcalf over what consistent eyewitness testimony describes as a light push is uncontested. Even Karmelo Anthony doesn't contest this. He has to concede that he did the stabbing in order to argue self-defense in the first place. It's absolute madness. So let me refresh JD Miles again just to see if he has another update. I don't see one here. Let's go through the other journalists because I want to make sure I don't forget to give them credit for the work they've been doing. One of them is, as I've already mentioned, JD Miles, CBS 11 news reporter out of Dallas. So traditional media. Mary Ann Martinez goes by Mary Ann Reports on X. I think she's also feeding her stuff to Daily Mail directly out in the UK. She's been doing great reporting on all this. So a lot of what I'll be recounting from you is based on her content. And Sarah Fields has been doing very good reporting on this too. I will note, it's hilarious. Sarah Fields actually has me blocked. I don't know why. I don't know why. I'm not saying she's wrong to block me. I can sometimes be a bit of a dick online. I might have said something that offended her, which is fine. I don't I don't take it personally. I just thought it was funny. A bunch of people were sending me her stuff to say, "Hey, check her out. She looks awesome." I don't recall ever having an interaction with her before, but I guess I must have. Otherwise, how would I end up blocked? But anyway, she's doing, despite that, she's doing great work in all this. And you should follow for this case all these people's reporting: JD Miles, Mary Ann Martinez, and Sarah Fields. Because we can't live stream the trial ourselves, we have to rely on others, and their reporting strikes me as generally credible. I'm not saying perfect. None of these people are lawyers, so often I get the sense that they're not sensitive to some of the relevant legal issues in the case. They're reporting what they think is most important, may or may not be the most important things. But listen, we all have our limitations. We all have our areas of expertise. We already have some super chats, so let me jump in. Let me make sure I'm not going to miss any Rumble rants either. Let's see. There is already a Rumble rant. Oh yes, someone just reminded me. Texas is. I'm in the Eastern time zone for a change. I'm going to, but the trial's in Texas, so that's Central time zone. So they're an hour behind. So it's only 12:15, 12:17 there. So they're not yet back. Not yet back. Thanks, man. Gito 463 with the helpful super chat there. Let me pop them up. I'll catch up on those Rumble rants rather. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I don't have my sound effects box when I'm on the road, so I can't do the ka-ching, but I appreciate you spending $5 to make me aware of that. Gito 463, $10. Karmelo Anthony inarguably murdered. He murdered his own self-defense claim. I guess that's true, isn't it? I guess that's true. All right, let me get to these super chats and stuff. Let's see. Pull that down. $5 Canadian from Tom. Thank you, Tom. Says it was provocation with intent. Yes, I spent $5 with intent. So provocation with intent is a way that you lose self-defense. If you have someone take that swing with the intent of then having a pretext to kill them and create a fake claim of self-defense, you lose self-defense as a legal defense. That's provocation with intent. Here, what we had, as Tom points out, is provocation within tent, within the Memorial High School tent. That's great, man. I should have paid you for that joke. A Cup of Soothe, $5, says, we declare, we decree, should have shown up for jury duty. If we don't show up, someone else does. A new member. Welcome to the family, Char. I love all of you in this community, but I love the members most of all. Batwing, $5. Let him take the stand. Can't get any worse for him. Maybe. You think he might get on the stand and confess that he was actually 18 years old when he committed this crime? Wouldn't that be funny? That's the only way he can dig the hole deeper, is to suddenly make himself eligible for the death penalty, which he's avoiding because the Supreme Court doesn't allow executions of people who are under the age of 18. But imagine if he got up there and he testified, oh, by the way, I just want to mention you all have my birthday wrong by a year. That's the only way he can make this worse for himself. Amazing Disgrace, $5. As you could probably guess, Barnes has a take on Karmelo Anthony that pisses off 95% of his audience. I don't follow Barnes' content. Someone did send me some critique he had, and I have some thoughts on that, but I don't know his overall view of the case. Leanne 454, $5. Sarah Fields reporting on X with live updates. Well, I don't think she can report from inside the courtroom, can she? Is she allowed to report from, like, she's got a phone and she's texting from inside the courtroom? I have her feed here. I'll refresh it right now. I don't see anything new from her within the last 30 minutes. I think most of these reporters, and I saw Sarah do a video where she was reading from like a spiral notebook. So I think she has to make notes, written notes in court, and then report on those when there's a break, is my understanding of how they're doing all this. All right, so let's go through what's been happening on Saturday and through this morning, mostly through this morning, because I've already kind of covered Saturday. Let's see what I have here. Well, it'll be pretty quick. Let's do some Saturday witnesses. So we had the prosecutor Worski. And one of the complicating factors in covering this is they won't name any of the witnesses who are juveniles, and most of the witnesses are juveniles. What I don't understand, one of my critiques of the journalists here, is that none of them simply started numbering the witnesses. Witness 1, witness 2, because then we end up with this amorphous body of journalist commentaries on different witnesses, and half the time we don't know who they're talking about. But I've tried to straighten that hot mess out as best I can. So on Saturday, which is the day the state rested, but before they rested, juvenile, I'll call him S1 for Saturday 1, is a state witness, testified no weapons are allowed at school. They saw a stranger. That would be Karmelo Anthony inside the tent, didn't know who he was. He was not in athletic gear. Not worried about him at the time. Saw Karmelo Anthony and Austin stand up. Austin put a hand on Anthony's shoulder, followed by yelling, because Karmelo Anthony instantly stabbed Austin Metcalf through the hand. Now, how is this hand on the shoulder described by this witness? A firm push. Is a firm push likely to cause you death or serious bodily injury that would justify a deadly force defensive response? Of course not. Was Austin Metcalf responding to being provoked? Provocation loses you self-defense. Responding to being provoked by Karmelo Anthony. Yes, that's why Austin put his hand on Karmelo's shoulder. You don't expect, the witness said, someone to get stabbed at a track meet. Many witnesses, by the way, have testified that they thought Karmelo Anthony was bluffing, put his hands in his bag, didn't think he had anything in there. Then after Karmelo stabbed Austin in the heart, he ran up the bleachers trying to run out of the stadium, according to this witness's testimony, although he never actually got out of the stadium. But for people who say that Karmelo Anthony stayed on the scene, he stayed on the scene because he was stopped from fleeing. He obviously fled. He stabbed Austin, threw the knife away, and fled, and then was stopped. Asked whether he thought this was self-defense, this witness said no, it was lethal force against non-lethal. And I'm going to circle back to this in a moment. It is somewhat surprising to me that a number of these witnesses have been asked these kinds of questions that are really a legal conclusion that's supposed to be arrived at by the jury. Was this self-defense or not? It's not really for witnesses to make that assessment. Was this murder or not? That's not for the witnesses to say. But they're being asked these questions and they're being allowed to answer. And that's, in my experience, unusual. I think that's one of Robert Barnes' critiques of the trial proceeding. So we'll circle back to that in a bit. Bottom line here, this witness testified on direct by the state that Karmelo Anthony provoked the stabbing and it wasn't done in self-defense. Cross-examined by Toby Shook. So he pulls out a transcript of an interview with detectives of this Saturday 1 witness, juvenile witness. Said the same person said Karmelo had gone into the tent on previous occasions, doesn't recall saying. So when he spoke to detectives, he says, Karmelo's been in there before. So it's not unusual. Now on the witness stand, he says, I don't remember saying that. What I meant to say is he would pass by a tent and say hi, not sit down and invade the tent. After the stabbing, this witness ran back to the bus. They were trying to figure out who Karmelo Anthony was. He remembered that on the time he said Hunter had popped in to defend Austin. On the witness stand, he doesn't recall Hunter saying anything or doing anything like that. A witness Saturday 2, another student for Memorial High School, which is Austin's high school. No, thank you, ma'am. Sorry, that was housekeeping. I forgot to hang out the do not disturb sign. This is a student athlete from Austin's high school, considered Austin to be a brother to him. I believe this witness, like most of the witnesses for the state, were black. He said a kid from Centennial came over to sit under the tent. That, of course, was Karmelo Anthony. They told him, hey, it's not raining anymore. It had been raining on and off. You don't need to be under the tent anymore. But Karmelo Anthony refused to leave. He got irritated. Touch me. See what happens, Karmelo Anthony said. That's the provocation with intent. We know it's with intent because we know what happened when someone, Austin, touched him. He killed him with a knife to the heart. Now, this is like every other witness that we've heard. Karmelo Anthony instigated, provoked this physical confrontation. Every other witness thought he was bluffing when he had his hand in his bag because it's a high school track meet. You're not supposed to bring in anything, meaning any weapons. Then Austin pushed Anthony, according to this witness. He didn't see the actual stabbing. That's how quick it was. He was right there. And he saw the shove, and he didn't see the stabbing. He just saw Austin with blood on his chest, falling down the bleachers, saying, I've been stabbed, people screaming. He's got a big hole in his chest. Asked if this was done in self-defense. Another time this happened. The prosecution asked, was this done in self-defense? And the witness says, no, this was murder. I'm really surprised. Witness State 3, the third witness on Saturday, still for the state, told the prosecution he wasn't really friends with either Austin or Hunter. He goes to Memorial. He was under the tent with all of them. And Karmelo Anthony sits next to him. Thought it was strange. Why are you sitting there when each team is supposed to have its own tent? A fellow student looked at Karmelo Anthony, said, who's this guy? Karmelo says, I'm a nobody. And the student says, well, if you're a nobody, get out from under this tent. And Karmelo Anthony says, I'm not effing leaving. Gets aggressive as more people told him to leave. Another person, if you're nobody, you can leave. I'm not leaving, Karmelo Anthony says. F you all. F you all. Of course, he's saying the F word. I'm not going to leave. You're a bunch of pussies. You're not going to do anything to me. And the kids thought, this witness, well, I thought it was just tough talk. Tough talk, like teenage boys might do. And Austin Metcalf tells him, you can just leave. We don't want you here. That's a weird way to be an attacker, right? Just go. Just go. Karmelo reaches in his bag, has his hands in his bag, says multiple times, touch me and see what happens. This witness says Austin is calm, tells Karmelo Anthony, I'm not going to fight you. The witness said Anthony's conduct was disrespectful to do under another team's tent. Austin Metcalf again, I'm not going to fight you at a track meet, bro. And then Austin pushes Anthony. And that's when Anthony stabbed him. Austin cries out, he stabbed me. He effing stabbed me. Lifts his shirt. There's a giant hole in his chest. It's full of blood, of course. Full of blood. Asked if Austin Metcalf deserved what happened. Witness answers no. Prosecution says it was murder, wasn't it? Again, again, it was murder. That's supposed to be up to the jury. But the witness answers, yes, sir. Cross-examination reiterated that the witness said again, Karmelo Anthony was swearing and saying, F you guys. F you guys. Austin Metcalf didn't have to step up to Karmelo Anthony. He just turned around. They were in the same row. Just touched the shoulder. How does that help self-defense? That's some defense cross-examination. Witness, Saturday, fourth state witness on Saturday, knew both Austin and Hunter, again considered Austin Metcalf like a brother to him. Like a brother. Used to be friends with Karmelo Anthony's girlfriend, the girlfriend he had at the time of the stabbing. It's an ex-girlfriend now because apparently she has common sense. And the prosecutor's saying, you're kind of unique here because you went to memorial with Austin, but you also knew Karmelo. And this witness says, well, I wasn't really friends with Karmelo. I'm very friendly with the girl he was dating. Our parents are friends. I consider her like a cousin. So we'd be at the same events, and sometimes because Karmelo was dating her, he'd be there too. But I wasn't really Carmelo's, in a friendly type of relationship with Karmelo. He was just around. He was in the tent. This witness didn't notice when Karmelo Anthony first got there, but saw him, knew him, chatted a bit. Started paying attention when Austin Metcalf was telling Karmelo, who are you? You need to leave the tent. And Karmelo Anthony says, no, you got to move me. You got to move me, you bitch. Austin Metcalf, of course, responded with his own cursing, as teenage boys will do. This witness described Austin as always trying to lead and defend. Lead and defend. Austin stood up. Karmelo Anthony's hand went into his bag. They thought it was a bluff. They didn't think he had anything in there. Karmelo Anthony, touch me and you'll see. You'll have to move me. This witness said he saw this as an invitation for Austin Metcalf to touch him. He saw Austin, and this is his testimony, softly shove Karmelo Anthony. And then Austin Metcalf fell backwards, grabbed his chest. He'd been stabbed in the heart. Stabbed in the heart. This witness on the witness stand, by the way, at one time had considered himself on friendly terms with Karmelo Anthony. He begins crying on the witness stand, weeping on the witness stand. They had to pause proceedings for a while. And Hunter was not materially involved in any of this except for conversationally. This witness was then asked by the state, are you angry with Karmelo Anthony? And he says, yes, that was my brother. He means figuratively, of course, who got stabbed. On cross-examination by the defense, the witness made it clear that during the interaction between Austin Metcalf and Karmelo Anthony, when he first sat down, Karmelo Anthony, this is on the fence cross. You're all bad. You're all ass, referring to the Memorial football team. So do you think it's provocative to go under another team's tent and then start disparaging their athletic capabilities? Nobody knew that Austin had, how really been stabbed until he pulled his shirt up. They saw the wound and the blood. Thought that Austin Metcalf had been shoved. Thought that Austin Metcalf had touched Karmelo Anthony, and Karmelo Anthony had not unreasonably responded with a shove back. Except Karmelo Anthony's shove had a knife in it that penetrated Austin Metcalf's heart. He gave an interview to police in the locker room. Hunter Metcalf was present, was unable to speak. He was so emotionally distraught at the death of his brother. Officers took his phone. They looked through his phone. This is a witness who had, I believe at some point, pretended to be recording the interaction. Like, oh my God, I want to record this. This looks really funny, but wasn't actually recording. So there was no video to be taken off his phone. He was subject to cross-examination by the defense attorney Toby Shook, who tried to make him seem much closer to Karmelo Anthony than he was through this girlfriend relationship. The defense kept bringing up social media images of this witness and the now ex-girlfriend at the same parties and saying, well, surely Karmelo Anthony was there. Surely you were hanging out with him. Almost like he was trying to rattle the witness. It seemed kind of weird to observers in the courtroom. Asked this witness to stand up and demonstrate the push. And he does. The defense asked a number of these eyewitnesses to do this, and every one of it does the same way. As this witness says, no, it wasn't that hard a shove. It was a small shove. That's what every witness has said. A small shove, a soft touch. Obviously grounds to be responded to with a knife to the heart. The defense also went kind of hard at this guy about this pretend filming. They tried to make him look like he was lying, like he had recorded and then he'd done away with the video. If only we had the video, the defense says, if only you had been filming, then we would know what really happened, wouldn't we? So the defense is now arguing based on evidence that that doesn't exist. That doesn't exist. It's not a very compelling argument. The next witness was the 5th for Saturday, the state's witness, their 21st witness, the last of the day, another football player, heard Karmelo Anthony saying, touch me and see what happens, with his hands in his backpack. He also thought Karmelo was bluffing. Karmelo Anthony challenged Austin to a fist fight, this guy says. Another student athlete. And that's when Austin Metcalf responded, I'm not going to fight you at a track meet, bro. This was the 3rd or 4th witness to confirm Austin Metcalf deferring from an invitation to a fist fight. Then he didn't really hear much else. At this point, this was when no one thought that the state was over. The state was going to rest, but apparently the judge called up the state and said, listen, you keep bringing up all these witnesses. There's 21 of them now. And they're all saying the same things. It's almost like the Derek Chauvin prosecution, where there were all these people standing on the sidewalk watching the arrest of George Floyd, and the prosecution just brought up every single person and testify in exactly the same manner, because of course they all saw the same things. It's objectionable because it's cumulative evidence. Just the weight of the evidence becomes overbearing. Unless they have different things to say, you shouldn't be bringing up a dozen or 24 witnesses to say the same thing. That's presumably what the judge was objecting to here. And it seemed repetitive to him, time consumptive and unnecessary. So the state was being pushed to move things along. They went next to the medical examiner, who just testified about the medical stuff, except that the funny part here was she's just describing the wound to the heart. It's 2.5 inches. It's a gaping wound. It's non-survivable. And the defense on cross-examination suggested that, is it possible that Austin Metcalf actually, he hurled himself onto the knife? He hurled himself onto the knife. And the medical examiner is like, well, it's possible. It's possible. The medical examiner wasn't there. It's possible. And the state came back and said, isn't that just like one of 1,000 possibilities? You have no reason to believe that occurred. And she had to agree. And then the prosecution rested. So we get to the defense case in chief. The defense had asked for a directed verdict, which you always ask for when the state rests, and you argue, well, they've missed an element. They haven't proven they haven't provided enough that a rational jury could conclude guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. And there turns up, they rested. So you should dismiss the charges. You always ask for it. And the judge always says no. There's enough here for the jury to consider where they could arrive at a verdict of guilt. It's only the most extreme cases. If a prosecutor were to literally offer zero evidence on a required element of the crime, well, then if there's zero evidence on an element, there's nothing for the jury to consider. And therefore, the element can't be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. And therefore, you should dismiss. But it's extremely rare to have that happen. And it didn't happen now. The motion for a directed verdict was rejected, denied by the judge. We go into the defense case in chief. Now they get to tell their side of the story. And folks, it was horrific. It was absolutely a train wreck. Absolutely a train wreck. By the way, I do want to mention something that you'll all want to be aware of, because Father's Day is coming up. And Father's Day means you need to get gifts for all the fathers in your life. And I have a very special gift that I know your dads will be interested in. I put it together just for this Father's Day month of June. I just have to find my picture of it. Hold on a second. I have it right here. It is, I know you're all going to be super excited to see this. It is this. I'm going to pull it up right now because you will want to order it sooner rather than later for reasons I'll explain in just a moment. It is this. It is the Trump $250 note mugshot mug. So you've all heard Trump is proposing to put out a $250 bill with his face on it. Requires a change in the law because right now you can't put the face of a living person on American currency. But they're working with Congress to change that so Trump can put his face on it. We don't know what this bill is actually going to look like, of course. I just had my graphics guy do a mock-up, but I chose as Trump's face on the bill. You might recognize it. That's his mugshot. So it's Trump's mugshot on a mug. And it's we've been offering these since the first of the month, and they are proving enormously, see if I can speak today, enormously popular. This is a huge mug, this particular one. It's 20 ounces, so I could put the big bill on there. But we have regular size mugs too, and we have a bunch of other stuff. Let me pull it all up with the same image on it. We have travel mugs, we have tumblers, we have koozies, cell phone cases, T-shirts, mouse pads, coasters, all kinds of stuff. But here's the thing. It takes about a week to get to you. So the shipping's not that quick. So you want to order it in plenty of time to have it for Father's Day. If you have dads in your life who like Trump, they will love this mug. You know what? I actually have it. Hold on a second. I'll grab mine. Look at it. Look at it. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. It looks beautiful. They will love this mug. If they love Trump, they will like this mug. You can get the mug. The link is in the description. You know, I forgot to put it. I'm going to pin it in the chat right now as the pinned message. I forgot to do that. Or you can point your phone at that QR code right there on the screen. Trump $250 mugshot mug. There we go. So if your dad likes Trump, I guarantee you he will love this mug or one of the smaller mugs if you prefer, or one of the other items. And if he doesn't like Trump, then you should definitely get him one. Get him two. Get him two. So he can take them and he can smash them together into little pieces in an expression of his hatred for Trump. And I guarantee you that will be one of his more memorable Father's Days. For sure. So, but again, you don't want to order at the last minute. You won't have it in time. So be sure to order it today, just so you'll get it. All right. Let's see. Let me catch up on super chats and such. Here's another Rumble rant from the always generous Gito463. Said you should have used Trump's booking number from the mugshot as the serial number. Missed opportunity. Well, my friend, I can't think of everything. That is a great idea. That is a great idea. I should have thought of that, but I'm afraid I did not. And a few super chats have piled up too. Jim tells you, check him out. Jim has his own show. He's a member here. I unfortunately caught Barnes on with Viva, and it's official Barnes TDS is complete. He says Karmelo didn't do nothing wrong. Really? Should I look for that? Didn't do nothing wrong. Someone should clip that and send it to me. I'll play it. He should be freed. And Hunter Metcalf should be arrested. Okay. Oh, dear Lord. Human beings are so funny. Steph says, hi, Andrew. Well, hi, Steph. You look lovely in that photo. Patrick Washburn, $5 says, I know we haven't seen actual transcripts, but it seems like some leading questions have been allowed. Would that be due to the witnesses being minors? A lot of the stuff that, when stuff is done that's objectionable, it's allowed to happen unless somebody objects, right? If you ask a leading question of a witness, the judge isn't going to object. Opposing counsel has to object. And there may be reasons they don't want to object. And it may be because we're dealing with minors. It's very convenient to be allowed to ask leading questions, like you're allowed to do on cross-examination, but you're normally not allowed to do on direct. If you can't ask leading questions, it can be difficult to get to the point you're trying to get to. And if you can ask a leading question, it's very easy. You just ask, this is the point I want to get to, yes or no. It's very straightforward. And sometimes when you're dealing with difficult or problematic witnesses, for example, if you can get a witness you called, so it's on direct, and normally you're not allowed to ask leading questions. If you can get the judge to agree the witness has become hostile, you can get permission to ask leading questions even then. And it might be with juveniles. They're thinking, well, if we don't ask them leading questions, we're never going to get to the point. And maybe opposing counsel agrees with that, so they're just going with it. I don't know. But in any case, if no one's objecting, it's just allowed to happen. So Eddie Rodriguez, how you doing, Eddie? Says, off topic, what do you think about the president hosting UFC on the White House front lawn for troops while the left screeches and screams? I don't really have any opinion on the UFC thing per se. What I love about it, what I really love about it, why everyone should get this mug for their dad for Father's Day. The link is, I didn't pin it though, did I? I think I might have forgotten to pin it. I think I put it in and forgot to pin it. Darn it. Which means I have to do it again. There's so many plates spinning here, folks. Here, I'll do it again. It's pinned on Rumble, and I'll put it into and I'm gonna come on. Oh my gosh. And it's pinned on YouTube too. And I put it on X as well. Oh, I'll put it in law self-defense. I don't think I can pin it there though. Oh, I lost a T on Trump. So now it's the rump mug. So sorry about that. Just know you're not getting a rump mug, I promise you. Here, fix it. Replace pinned message. All right. That's for this. That's for this, for Father's Day. So they don't have to be this big. This is the one that gets you the big bill. We have normal size mugs too. What I love about the UFC thing is who's better at baiting these deranged actions out of the TDS crowd than Trump. I mean, it's just genius. It's absolutely genius. I've looked at, so someone's filed a federal lawsuit against them. And it's one of these crazy Karens with TDS. The whole thing is just hilarious to read. I might just cover it. We'll see. So what I love about it is I love the baiting of the TDS crowd. It just exposes them for what they are. And Trump's a genius at it. Kenneth Noisewater, $20. Thank you, man. That's super generous. What's your take on this judge slowing witnesses to making, I think you mean allowing witnesses to make conclusions of law, like this is murder or the like? Do we know if the judge rebuked counsel or witnesses? P.S. Congrats on your escape from Colorado. I'm not out yet. We sell our house in Colorado in about a month. And then we have another month before we close on our house in Knoxville, which is where we're moving. But as soon as we close in Colorado, we're out. So we'll be living in an interim. We'll be traveling a lot and doing stuff in between the two houses, that 3 or 4 weeks we have in between. But I'll be out this time, a month from now. I will be permanently out of Colorado. And thank you. It's a blessing. This place is in Colorado's insane. Of course, I'm in West Virginia right now because I'm going to, did I mention this already? I'm going to be on Tim Pool tonight. Tim Pool. So Tim is very kindly having me back on the show again. I can't remember how many times I've been on, 4 or 5 or 6 or something like that. I love coming on Tim's show. It's always a good time for me. I have a lot of fun. And we'll be talking Karmelo Anthony. We'll be talking, I expect, Dalton, Chud the Builder, Etherly, and whatever use of force stuff that Tim would like to talk about. Of course, I'm happy to discuss. That's 8 p.m. tonight, Timcast IRL, 8 p.m. Eastern time tonight. So join us there. It'll be a fun time. Stalker 661 says $5. The step it takes in order to open a folding knife is premeditated by itself. We're going to talk about premeditation. There's a lot of people who seem to think, I'll put the coffee mug image back up as I'm talking about these. There's a lot of people who seem to think that the requirement of premeditation for something to be an intentional murder means you have like a list, like it's something out of a 1960s detective TV series. It's like, well, we found his list. It's, chloroform, duct tape, handcuffs, all this stuff. No, premeditation happens in an instant many times. It's more than enough. You just made an instant decision to kill that guy. That's intentional. So there's a lot of people who are just on the wrong track. They don't understand what these words really mean. Or they're being deliberately disingenuous. There's lots, of course, of lying and propaganda going on about this case, as there so often is. Batwing 6, $20. Thank you, man. Oh, by the way, all the super chat money goes into my wife's flower fund. I buy my wife flowers with it. If the unlikely occurs and this gets another trial, can we please try to get B. Ivory Lamar from the Edgecombe case for the defense? That comedy is all that is missing from the train wreck of a self-defense trial. Well, it only counts if we can watch it. I mean, the B. Ivory Lamar theater in the courtroom is you can only really enjoy it if you get to see it. And the court would have to agree to show it. I have to say, if there were a retrial, there's really no reason not to stream the second trial. I mean, what's the reason for not streaming this one? I really don't understand. I mean, I can kind of understand why the judge might have wanted to clamp down on the videos and other evidence, maybe not to taint the jury pool or to kind of mitigate the normal propaganda circus that forms around these racially energized cases. But once the jury's selected, I don't see the reason for not streaming this trial. You don't have to put the minors' faces on the TV. We have lots of trials with minors. They just don't show them. But certainly if there's a second trial, we all know this stuff now. There's no reason not to see it. And I think it's a terrible disservice to the American public not to show it. I have to rely on journalists' understanding of what they're watching. I just don't think they know what they're watching. No offense to the journalists, but they're not lawyers. There's things they are missing because they're not attorneys. I'm absolutely certain of it. But yes, that would be funny. You know who, and by the way, I also can't tell whether the defense lawyers are doing a good or bad job for Karmelo Anthony. Because again, they're stuck. They're stuck with the facts that Karmelo Anthony gives them. I mentioned the other day, I don't even know the race of his lawyers. I haven't looked up their images. But B. Ivory Lamar was mentioned. He's a black attorney who's excellent taste in suits, and was involved in a very difficult defense. But he's very theatrical in nature. And but we just watched the Rick Chow trial. One of his, this is the Asian convenience store owner who shot the 14-year-old in the back, got acquitted. One of his defense attorneys was, I think the guy's name is Sean Kent. Am I getting that right? Sean Kent. He happens to be a black guy, also excellent taste in suits. And oh my God, his closing in the Chow case was absolutely world class. It was amazing. If I were looking for a defense attorney that involved any kind of racial dynamic, I'd be putting together a lot of money to hire Sean Kent. He was amazing. Of course, he's also stuck with the facts you give him. Carson Math, $5 says, Barnes says it was strange the state was trying to prove provocation and alleged some state impropriety with jury selection. Seems an odd stance. Yeah, he's not happy, I guess, that there were no black jurors. Someone told me he thought it was an all-white jury. It was just kind of funny, because there's a bunch of minorities and Asians and others on the jury. But I'll come back to Barnes in a bit if we get to it. Leah Wolf, the red $5. So the defense did not use the Chewbacca defense. That's from South Park. I'm not going to dive into all that now. Mr. E409, $2 says, hopefully Ian won't be on tonight. Yeah, I mean, different people have different thoughts about Ian. I don't have any problem with Ian. I will say, I think Ian was on the first couple times I was on Tim Pool. And I'm not sure he's ever been on when I'm there again. And I don't know if he has a gripe with me or if that's just coincidence, or I don't know how all that scheduling stuff works. But I don't have a problem with Ian. He's an interesting guy. He's got some crazy ideas, but that's interesting. Lisa Frampton, member for 7 months, says, looking great. Wish you'd move to Utah, become the attorney general. Love what you do. Yeah, I ride through Utah every year on a motorcycle trip while I was living in Colorado through Glen Canyon, Escalante, Bryce Canyon, all that beautiful, beautiful terrain, fantastic riding. I don't know. That might be over for me now that I'm living in Knoxville. I have a lot of Smoky Mountains to explore on the motorcycle. Tread 1775 says, always my pleasure. Thank you, my man. And he gifted 5 memberships. 5 of you in the YouTube chat just got selected for membership on YouTube. About half our shows are members-only shows. So we have memberships on YouTube and on Locals. It's only 16 cents a day, folks. $5 a month to be a member. And you get double the Branca Show content. So you may want to consider that. Guru Breed, $10 says, I live in New Hampshire, which has some of the best gun laws, but I live 20 minutes from Massachusetts. Are they ever going to change the law so I don't accidentally cross the line and go to prison? No. It's actually much easier if you live in Massachusetts. I lived in Massachusetts for 25 years, had a concealed carry permit in Massachusetts. And then, of course, it was easy for me to get a New Hampshire non-resident, Vermont, Rhode Island, Maine, Connecticut. So I had all of New England covered. But if you don't, that only really works if you live in Massachusetts, because although it's technically possible to get a non-resident Massachusetts permit, it's only good for a year, and they make it so burdensome to do that almost nobody does it, which of course is the purpose of making it burdensome. But on the other hand, I had to live in in Massachusetts. I had to go to New Hampshire for my tax-free shopping, and most of my pistol matches I shot up in New Hampshire at the Pioneer Sportsman's Club, if you know where that is, not far from Concord. Gunface, $10. You should definitely do a stream just on the Viva Barnes take on this case. Barnes had some of the most insane takes, and he lies. Okay, that's not me saying it. That's his account. He basically said because his size might scare me, so I can poke him. So, I mean, I might have to do that, I guess. Should I do that? Maybe I'll do a poll. How about if I do a poll? I'll do a poll from StreamYard. But here's the thing. When I do a poll on StreamYard, I just want to remind all of you, you don't click on the poll. You have to put a number in the chat, okay? Should I do a video take on the, let's see. Should I do a show on the Viva Barnes take on the Karmelo trial? So yes is 1 in the chat, the number 1, okay? No is a 2 in the chat. I think that'll work. I think that'll work. All right, so let me put that live. Start and show. There we go. Oh man, people are coming in hot. Let's see. Do I lose my super chat when I do that? Oh, but then I lose the poll. Okay. All right. Let's see. I think maybe I have to move the poll. I'll move it up to the top right. And now can I do my super chats? Okay. You should definitely do a stream just on the Viva Barnes take. Yeah. So first of all, I don't have any problem with Robert Barnes. I mean, I don't know if he's saying crazy stuff or not. I'm not trying to be negative about Robert Barnes. He can speak for himself, and people can decide if they like or don't like what he says. I like Viva. I've been on David's show. He's a nice enough guy. I've only got positive things to say about him. So, I wouldn't want this to turn into one of those, law tube, what do they call it? Thunderdome events where it's like it's just manifesting malice. I don't have any malice towards either of these guys, but if they're speaking legal opinions that are amenable to criticism, then perhaps I'll do that. It's the poll is certainly in one direction. That's for sure. My God, there's thousands of people in today's show. Captain Crunch. Captain Crunch was my favorite cereal as a kid. New sub for 2 months. Love the show. Well, thank you, man. I really appreciate that. Siraj, Florida, $20. If he's being tried as an adult, then capital punishment should definitely be the penalty. I just ordered 2 of my Trump mugs. Oh, thank you, man. He's talking about these, of course. One for me, one for my dad. $41 after delivery was a steal. Thanks for the great mug. You're very welcome, my friend. So I can't remember if death penalty was one of the things Barnes talked about, but here's the deal with the death penalty. First of all, death penalty, and Texas has the death penalty. But for all the states that have the death penalty, they have different flavors. There's some aggravating factors that need to distinguish the killing, and it only ever applies to killings, unfortunately. The killing from just a typical homicide. It needs to involve a kidnapping or multiple victims or something along those lines. I have not looked to see the nuances of the Texas capital punishment law. So even if Karmelo Anthony was an adult, he still might not fall within the scope of the Texas capital punishment statute just because he committed a murder, assuming the jury returns a verdict of guilt. But even if he did fall within the scope of the Texas capital punishment law, the Supreme Court of the United States says you cannot execute someone for a crime they committed under the age of 18. I don't get it. I was just looking at a case today where a 14-year-old shot someone dead over nothing. Nothing. Just like a street robbery of a cell phone. The point is not just the person's guilt. The point is sending a message. Are we a civilization or not? Are 14-year-olds just going to be allowed to go around and murder innocent people over their cell phones? Is that the world we want to live in? I think we can improve things. Stephen, member for 7 months. The sequel to The Summer of Love is going to be a doozy. I don't know. This doesn't feel like it has the same vibe to me, like the George Floyd trial or the Ahmaud Arbery trial. I'm not seeing that kind of energy outside this courtroom. But of course, bad actors will do what society allows them to get away with. That's what we're seeing with the Antifa people, right? Outside Delaney Ice Center and other ICE facilities. 25 Rose just became a YouTube member. That's awesome. What is that? Are you there with a stuffy? I'm not sure that's appropriate. Gen X Boomer, $5 says, just debate Barnes until he cries and rage quits. Well, that's what happened the last debate I had with, oh my God, I'm blanking on the name. Oh, I feel terrible. I'm not blanking on purpose. He's got a very successful YouTube channel, former prosecutor and police officer. He's got a bad eye, recently had brain surgery. A nice guy, personally. But I had a debate with him and he rage quit off the show. And then he came back on and he was very nice. And then the next day he did a video. He did a video that was purportedly, I haven't seen it, but people were telling me it was extremely negative about me, and he locked it down so only his members could see it. So my debates on social media have not been, in my experience, they tend to, because there's no actual moderation. I've done a lot of debates. I've won debates at major law schools. But on social media, because there's no effective moderation, they just turn into screaming fests, especially when the other side sees they're losing. They can't reason themselves to a victory. They just start, they start screaming like, I don't know. They should be required to put diapers on if they're going to act like that. I'm not saying that's what Robert would do. I don't know. I've never debated Robert. Bald Eagle, $5. I think Texas reserves capital punishment for murder of law enforcement, pregnant mothers, children, or an especially heinous crime. I live in Texas. Right. So those kinds of conditions would be pretty typical for capital punishment in most states. It's not intended, unfortunately, for the typical murder. MLS, how you doing, man? We were just on a show together, MLS, David and I, talking about the bricks and minifigs kerfuffle. That was a lot of fun. $10. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Sweden recently decided they were not going to prosecute children under the age of 13 for heinous crimes. So now gangs are employing 12-year-olds. Of course they are. And I bet most of those gangs don't consist of Swedes, do they? Mark V11, $5. I remember a Brazilian female MMA fighter in Rio had a bright bulb, try to take her phone, and got a beating in response. Yes, I saw that. Those women in BJJ, it's kind of funny because the truth is, if you take, a 110-pound woman of a certain level of expertise in BJJ and you match her up against a 200-pound man with the same level of expertise in BJJ, she's not going to stand a chance. But if she's up against someone who doesn't know BJJ, not only does she have an excellent chance, but she gets a big advantage because she's a 110-pound woman. And you don't expect her to go all spider monkey on you and choke your brains out. And they do. They're very, very good. I've I've been choked out by them in the gym. They're kind of sneaky because you're not expecting that much. And they just, they spider monkey. Batwing 6, $5. Apparently Black Panthers are cosplaying as members of society outside the courthouse. Very well may turn into another mostly peaceful bonfire summer. I saw 2 of them in news reports. So, at the Ahmaud Arbery trial, they had large crowds of Black people carrying around coffins. Carrying around coffins for the defenders, shouting loud enough you could hear them in the courtroom. The jury could hear them in deliberations, shouting. Austin Metcalf was the murder of a child. Yeah, he was, right? 17 years old. We're gonna call Karmelo Anthony a child. Austin Metcalf qualifies as a child as well. Oh my gosh, we keep having more. Everyone's having so much fun today. West Pro, $2 says, I enjoyed listening to Barnes' take. It made me think. Yeah, good. Okay. I mean, Barnes is not a stupid guy. I would expect him to have some interesting takes. Gito 463, $5. Have you looked into the South Carolina case about the Scott Spivey shooting? Seems to be corruption with the local cops. From what I've seen, just saw it yesterday. I don't think I'm familiar with the Scott Spivey shooting. I mean, police corruption happens, right? Of course, not every police department or officer is corrupt, but you have power, it breeds corruption. $5, Cat Facts. Tim's show covers all current events. He'll probably also ask about the Trump interview. But before you go on the show, just search for the top news stories. Hey, thanks, man. I will do that. Yeah, I mean, I always tell Tim, like, this is my area of expertise, but I'm happy to comment on anything. I'm happy to comment on anything. All right, I'm going to take the poll down because it's not going to change. I don't think it's going to change. 95% are saying I should take a look. How many did we get? We got almost a couple hundred votes. Are saying I should. All right, I'll take a look at the video and I'll see if there's something I can add. That might be useful. All right, let's see. Oh my gosh, folks. Here we go. Stephen, $5 says, ordered a mug and shirt for Father's Day. God bless him, as he's recently retired with my mom. He's the best dad. Yeah, I feel that way about my dad too. Tread says, $5. I want and need a map mug, but can't find it. Oh, yeah, is it not on there? He's talking about my little store. Let me take a look here. Scroll through. Yeah, it's on there. You're talking about this one, right? Whoops, this one. It's always the same map mug. It may not be showing in the YouTube store. YouTube may not like it. So YouTube only shows the products they approve. But if you use the link in the description, it'll take you to this page and you can get this mug. I believe this is still our most popular mug. It is, of course, the World IQ map, showing that IQ is not homogeneously distributed across all nations and cultures and peoples. But it's still available. You just have to scan the QR code here in this image or go to the link in the pinned comment and you'll get to our store as opposed to the YouTube store. A lot of people bought that mug. I think they feel maybe it's safe enough. They can leave it on their desk at work and no one will know what the real message is. All right, I'm going to take a look at these journalists again and just see if there's any breaking news. J.D. Miles, Dallas CBS reporter. 13 minutes ago? 1:56. Yeah, 13 minutes ago. The lunch break has been inexplicably extended. Yeah, that's a good poll. I think I'll do that poll. Let's do that poll. A plea deal. I'll put that in as an option. Let's see. A new poll. What's happening with extended trial break? Okay. Defense rests is option 1. Mistrial declared. Let's see. Plea deal. Or pleads guilty. Throws in the towel. Let's see. The defense rests, mistrial, plea deal, or pleads guilty. Just gives up. Just gives up. Do with me what you will. Do with me what you will. Let's see what people have to say about that. Again, you don't click on the poll. You have to put the number into the chat, folks, okay? Let's see. I think they're offering a deal. This guy says, let me pull this back up. In the hopes that there's no riots after. It's ridiculous. I think a deal is ridiculous on the legal merits. I mean, the prosecution has a stake through the heart of this defense. This defense has no rational basis for any self-defense justification here. Absolutely none. Not even from their own witnesses. There's nothing. Their witnesses are undermining self-defense at every turn. So for the state to offer a deal here on the legal merits would be crazy. Now, might the state offer a deal to prevent riots? I mean, where's the Justin for Austin Metcalf? I guess they know that the white people aren't going to riot, right? It's kind of an imbalance there in terms of interests. Let me look at Mary Ann Martinez, what she has to say. This is from just a few minutes ago, 10 minutes ago. Let me pull up her comment. And these are journalists I suggest you take a look at in terms of, they seem to be doing credible coverage. I would not say perfect coverage. They're not lawyers. It's difficult to do perfect coverage on a trial if you're not actually an attorney. But they certainly seem to be doing journalistically competent coverage. So she writes, we were supposed to be back in the courtroom for the afternoon session in the Karmelo Anthony trial after a lunch break, but there's been a delay. We're not being told what's going on. The defense has called 6 witnesses since it's had its turn to present a case. A Centennial High School coach, 4 students who were at the stadium, and a cop. None of them were helpful. None of them were helpful. And I don't think Sarah Fields would have any other information, but let's take a look at her. The Black Panthers in uniform. Oh, I guess there's more than 2. Looks like there's a handful there. But look how empty it is. This is not what the courtroom outside of George Floyd or outside of Ahmaud Arbery looked like, outside the George Zimmerman trial. It's not what it looked like. All right, let's get back to my recounting of the testimony. So we're at the defense. The defense case in chief, they started presenting witnesses on Saturday after the state rested. The first witnesses was Adam Linwood. He's a track coach, football coach at Karmelo Anthony's high school, Centennial High School. He described, now he's being questioned now by the defense. Mike Howard, defense attorney, he's their witness. So he's on direct. They're not supposed to be asking leading questions, but they are. Asked about kind of the social context of track and field. Is it more social than, say, a football game? He says it is. He's seen players go into each other's tents before, being social. Going into other teams' tents is not to be. In his school, they don't kick out athletes from other teams if they're in their school's tents. He says, but he also says, I don't know what the rules are for the other high schools. But since this stabbing, by the way, every high school has now adopted the rule, prudently enough. Other teams' athletes are not allowed in the tents, just not permitted. Let's see. Centennial didn't have a tent that day. Clarified on direct from the defense. The defense says, is it true there's no weapons allowed at track meets? He says, yeah, zero tolerance policy. That's the defense testimony. And how is that helpful to Karmelo Anthony? And that was it. Very limited questioning. And then the defense hands over their first witness to the prosecution for cross-examination. And the prosecutor, Worski, he goes, I assume, coach, you were shocked that one of your players stabbed another athlete at a track meet. He goes, yeah. So all these coaches, they have different policies for their tents, right? Yeah. Wasn't Karmelo Anthony supposed to be warming up at this time? The coach says, yes. Was he? No. Why did he leave the warm-up? No idea. Ask about the cleat sharpener. I've shown this cleat sharpener thing before. That people are trying to say that Karmelo Anthony, he wasn't carrying a knife. He had a cleat sharpener, which is a tool with a big rubber handle and a little tiny blade on the end to get mud out of your cleats on the bottom of your shoes. That's not what Karmelo Anthony had. Then the next lie, so many lies. There are so many lies in all this. The next lie was that he had a multi-tool. So this is what a multi-tool looks like for those of you who may not know. It's like a pair of pliers, 20 tools in one. And, pliers, screwdrivers, and a knife blade, tweezers, scissors, all kinds of stuff. They're very handy to have around. But people were trying to suggest, well, this is what Karmelo Anthony had. It could be used for cleaning out cleats, too. It's not automatically a weapon. It's so innocent. So innocent. He was compelled to resort to his multi-tool when he was gang assaulted by Austin Metcalf and his brother Hunter and the rest of the what is it? Memorial team, right? This, folks, this is nothing like what Karmelo Anthony plunged into the heart of Austin Metcalf. We haven't been shown pictures of the actual weapon, but reporter Sarah Fields is in the courtroom. She's seen the pictures of the actual weapon, and she says it looks just like this. She found a picture on the internet just like this. The only multi-part of this, look at that blade. The only multi-part of this is the little hook here on the back. That's for cutting seatbelts. So you can cut a seatbelt in the case of a car accident. You cut a seatbelt off of somebody without having to use the actual blade, which might result in their injury. You just hook this thing on the seatbelt. It's got a little knife blade inside it. You safely cut the seatbelt. That's the only multi-function of this thing. She also says that the blade shown in court did not have any serrations, but she said otherwise it looks just like this. A 3.5-inch blade, locking, folding knife. So many lies in all of this stuff. Let's see. They showed the knife to the jury. It was asked the coach, is this a cleat sharpener? No. Would it be normal for a coach, like the coach of Memorial, to ask one of the students, like Austin Metcalf, to be a leader in the tent? Yes. This coach, Karmelo Anthony's coach, says, yeah, that would be normal to ask Austin Metcalf to do that. And then he was asked, well, would you agree that if one of these student athletes were placed in charge by the coach, as Austin Metcalf was by his coach, that coach testified to this. If a student athlete was placed in charge of the tent and instructed to keep members of other teams out of the tent, should that student comply with those instructions and try to keep students from other teams out of the tent? And Karmelo Anthony's own coach says, yes, yes, that would be the normal thing to do. Asked on examination also, you're aware that no weapons are allowed at track meets? Yes. Is it safe to assume you don't approve of your athlete stabbing others in the chest? Yes. Should it happen that one of your athletes ends up in another team's tent and they ask them to leave, should your athlete leave? Yes, of course. So that was the first witness of the defense on Saturday. Let's see how we're doing for catch up on super chats. Oh, how's the poll doing? So the defense rests. 36% of you think that. Mistrial, 4%. Plea deal, 55%. It's not impossible for a plea deal to happen in the middle of a trial like this, and this would be the kind of trial where there are political factors involved that could potentially lead to that. But if you say the prosecutor agrees to the plea, all right, we'll give him manslaughter. We'll give him 15 years time instead of life in prison. That's a good deal for Karmelo Anthony. I mean, he's not even 20, right? So he's out in his early 30s, and he can still have a life. But how do you then guarantee, how does the defense guarantee there won't still be riots? How do you secure that arrangement? I don't know how you would do that. And just pleads guilty, throws in the towel. That might be the rational thing to do. But no, I don't think they're going to do that either. I think the defense will rest is what I think. Choice number one for me. All right. Let's catch up on super chats here. EPMJ, $5 says from Mike Lovin. Hey, Mike. Lovin today's look. I didn't put the tie on because I'm just not this Holiday Inn Express. Very CIA, awesome. Your 95% poll could change overnight in California. They're gonna fly in more votes on the police helicopters like they did in California for the ballots. Thank you all for all the great information. You're very welcome, my friend. Cat McRae, $5. Didn't they raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for Carmelo's defense? That he's using a public defender. You know, I don't know what's happening with the whole public defender thing. Every state does this differently. He has a private attorney, but the private attorney might be being paid through public defender funds. Some states do that. Some states have a dedicated public defender's office that's paid by the state. Colorado does it that way. I've had my interactions with them. Massachusetts did it that way. New York State did it that way. But some states just allocate money for public defense, and then they assign private attorneys to be public defenders on kind of an ad hoc basis. I don't know if that's what's happening here. I just don't know. It doesn't really matter for the legal merits of the case. 25 rows, $20. Profile pic. Oh, it's my daughter when she was 15. She is my mini-me twin, and I thought it'd be funny to put that pic. I am the stuffed animal, apparently. Love your content. Hubby and I listen together. Much appreciated. Well, that's very sweet. And you have a very nice daughter there. I've got 3 daughters myself. I think they're very nice too. Tamara Ann, $5 says, got to say, worried if it comes back guilty. I live in Collin County and not far from the courthouse. My church is literally across the street. I don't know, man. You would have a better feel for what's on the ground. My understanding is Collin County is only 12% black. And let's be fair. It's not like every black person's a crazy person. That's not true. I see a significant number of black people on social media who are like, Carmelo's guilty. You other black people are being crazy. Batwing 6, $10. Wonder how much blowback the DA office will get if they allow a plea deal. Well, what would the blowback be? The voters should be pissed if they do, especially after all the money spent and with such an obvious win. They should be, but they never are. I mean, so most of the voters in Collin County, you think most of the voters know who this prosecutor is, knew who he was before this trial started? Most people don't know who their local prosecutor is. He's not even the head prosecutor, I don't believe. I believe he's, not to be critical of him, but I think which would be normal. Let's see. I think he's an assistant prosecutor, which could be very senior. I don't mean to diminish his role in any way. But it's only the head prosecutor who is I don't have it right here. My recollection is that he's a I don't have it here. He's an assistant prosecutor. So he's not elected himself. Of course, the head prosecutor who is elected is accountable for what his subordinates do. I presume would have to approve any kind of plea deal. So I guess he'd be on the hook. But most people don't know who that is. And by the time the next election comes around, they've forgotten all about it. And white people don't, we don't hold on to these things. We go about our daily lives and we forget about it. We have other things to do. We have work and family and church and all that stuff. That's how they can get away with it. When it goes the other way, the professional agitators don't let go of it. In the Michael Brown case, the hands up, don't shoot case, right? Michael Brown fought a cop for his gun, then charged him afterwards, and the officer shot and killed him. Supposedly, while Michael Brown was on his knees begging for his life, hands up, don't shoot. His hands were up. His hands were up because he was charging at the officer like a linebacker. The prosecutor in that case, Ferguson, Missouri, he'd been the prosecutor there for like 30 years, 35 years. Career prosecutor, elected time and time and time again. Very well respected, very well trusted by the community. But he made the decision in the Michael Brown case to go to the grand jury and not just show the grand jury evidence consistent with Michael Brown was executed, hands up, don't shoot, but show the grand jury all the evidence in the Michael Brown shooting. And when you see all the evidence, it's obvious it was a justified shoot. And that's what the grand jury concluded. And so they refused to indict the police officer involved. That was the end of the case. That prosecutor, who'd been the prosecutor for more than 3 decades, the next time he ran for election, he lost. He lost to a young black attorney who'd never been a prosecutor before, who campaigned on the promise that he would reopen the prosecution, impanel another grand jury, and go after that police officer again. So that long-standing prosecutor lost his career when all he did was show the grand jury the truth. So we are held accountable, but it never seems to work the other way. By the way, the new prosecutor looked at the actual evidence and never put it in front of a grand jury. It would have been pointless. But he got elected, got that other guy out of office. Bald Eagle. I hope Austin's coach can forgive himself. He probably blames himself for Austin's death for unintentionally creating the whole situation. You mean by putting him in charge? No. I hope he doesn't feel that way. That's not his fault. There's no reason to expect some feral savage is going to come in and stab your students to death. Not in Frisco, Texas. Siraj, Florida, $5. If the Anthony family didn't use the proceeds of the donations for the defense of Karmelo, then why aren't they being charged with fraud? I don't know. Who would charge them with fraud? The state? The state's going to go. I just don't see that happening. Uncle Ron's pub, $5. If Karmelo was in such fear for his life, why would he have thrown away the weapon while still in the midst of the mob? Why wouldn't he have just left? It's not like they surrounded him and said, you're trapped and now we're going to beat you. Now you can't leave, right? That's not what was happening. He was being asked to leave. He had a perfect path to safety. Now, Texas law doesn't require you to retreat from a threat, but he did have a path to safe retreat. I guarantee you, if I can avoid getting into a fight simply by walking away, consistent with my obligations to defend myself and others, then I'm going to walk away. Don't be getting into fights we don't need to be getting into, folks. That's not a smart play. That's how you end up like Karmelo Anthony, looking at spending the rest of your life in prison. All right, another look here at the journalists, because everything is breaking so fast. It looks like nothing new there. While I'm doing this, I'll put the Father's Day mug back up. I know what's going to happen, folks. I know, like the last few days before Father's Day, people are going to be calling me saying, hey, is there any way to expedite that shipment? Because otherwise it takes a week to get to you. And the answer is, I don't think there is. So if you want to get the amazing Trump mugshot mug, $250 bill mug for your dad. I would order it now. I wouldn't wait. You're going to forget. You're going to procrastinate. And then like 3 days before Father's Day, you're going to say, damn, I meant to get dad the mug. And it'll be too late. Don't let it be too late. Don't let it be too late. And if you don't think he wants the mug, there's cell phones and T-shirts and coasters and all kinds of stuff. We put the Trump $250 note mugshot mug image on. All right, I'm looking at Marianne Martinez, and I don't think I'm seeing. Nope, no change there. And Sarah Fields again, who has me blocked. Am I still blocked? I'm still blocked. Nothing new there. All right, let's get back to the testimony stuff. So, defense witness number 2 is now 18, I guess. May have been 18 at the time. Jeremiah Smith. So they finally named one of these student athlete witnesses at a student at Karmelo Anthony's school. On direct, I don't have any good notes on what happened on direct with him. So I guess not much. On cross-examination, prosecutor Worski says, and this is the defense witness, they're supposed to give testimony that's helpful to the defense, right? Asked by the state on cross, if you were asked to leave another team's tent, would you leave? Yes. Do you bring a knife to track meets? No. That's the end of that. Then defense witness number 3. This was a Austin Metcalf high school student, memorial student. Was the last witness of the day on Saturday. Had just taken the SAT that morning. Can you imagine? You take the SAT in the morning and then you have to testify in a murder trial in the afternoon. Let's see. Remembers Hunter asking Karmelo Anthony, who are you? Said Austin Metcalf is much bigger than Hunter. And Hunter was bigger than Karmelo Anthony. Of course, the size only matters if they're threatening you with violence, right? You can't just stab someone because they're big. Let's see. Everything that happened in a moderate tone. He's testifying here on direct to the defense. Karmelo Anthony was told to leave and responded, no one has a problem with me being here except for you. Except we know from other witnesses that lots of people were telling Karmelo Anthony not to leave. I think he was talking about Hunter there. Asked by defense attorney Howard, do you remember telling police that Austin Metcalf said, you need to move before I beat your ass? So this is all over social media in the pro Karmelo Anthony. They're saying, hey, we have testimony that Austin Metcalf threatened to beat Karmelo Anthony's ass. He outweighs him by almost 100 pounds. That could well be perceived, reasonably perceived as a threat of death or serious bodily injury. The most compelling evidence the defense has. This is their star witness. Do you remember telling police that Austin Metcalf said to Karmelo Anthony, you need to move before I beat your ass? Now, first of all, it's a conditional statement, right? Karmelo Anthony could just leave. But this is what the witness says. The witness says no, I don't remember saying that. So then the defense attorney goes and gets the transcript from the police interview. And he says, look at this transcript. Does this refresh your recollection? And the witness looks at it. See if I have it here. I do. The witness looks at the transcript, and this is the exchange that follows. The witness says, well, but you're only reading part of it. You're only reading part of it. Do you recall telling police you heard Austin saying, you need to move or I'll beat your ass? The witness says, no, I don't recall saying that. I did not say that. In fact, I said to the officer, it says right here in the transcript that I didn't say that. I said, literally, I told the detective, it was not literally that. I said it was something like that. I didn't say he said that verbatim. What a grotesque misrepresentation by defense counsel. And then they get called out in front of the jury as misrepresenting the evidence. It's terrible. I don't think the defense attorney expected the witness to respond that way. So the witness never really told that story, never recounted these series of events. Defense attorney is saying, well, did you do this? Then the defense attorney got upset. And this got interesting. Now, I'm relying on the journalist recounting this, but apparently the defense attorney started, he's on direct examination, right? This is his witness. He's not supposed to ask leading questions. But he starts asking a whole series of leading questions. Isn't it true that you were saying you did this thing? And he describes the thing. And then you did that thing. And he describes that thing. And then you did this thing. And then he described what's happening here is the defense on direct with their own witness is actually testifying. He's providing testimony. And often the witness would say, no, that didn't happen. But it's not the witness testifying to these things. It's the defense attorney providing testimony. That's not what's supposed to be happening. And it's such a weird thing. These claims the defense attorney was making were never said by any other witness, and they weren't supported by this witness. But now the words are out in front of the jury, right? The funny thing is, so one of the claims he made is he asked this witness, isn't it true that you said that Karmelo Anthony told Austin Metcalf, as long as you don't touch me, you're cool? Well, that would be exculpatory, right? That's very reasonable of Karmelo Anthony. Hey, man, as long as you don't touch me, you're cool. And the witness says, no, I never said that. I never said that. But you know what didn't happen? A couple days earlier in the week, I saw social media posts on X where the people who are making up all the lies, all the propaganda, all the false narratives and claims about this case, they were saying that. They just spontaneously made up that Karmelo Anthony told Austin Metcalf, hey, man, as long as you don't touch me, you're cool. And then 2 days later, the defense attorney's asking the witness about it. And the witness says, no, that never happened. Is defense counsel just reading the propaganda off of X into the record as testimony? Is that what's happening? It's really bizarre. So then this witness is subject to cross-examination by Prosecutor Worski. He said he talked to his dad during the break. Oh, the prosecutor had spoken to this witness's father during the break. And the father said, yeah, my son is nervous. Everybody's nervous on the witness stand. The witness said, Austin Metcalf said, you have nothing in there. And it's because Karmelo Anthony had his hands in his bag, right? That's where the knife was. But everyone thought there was nothing in there, that it was a bluff. And then Karmelo Anthony, so Austin Metcalf said, you don't have anything in there. This is not a high crime community, in effect. We're in Frisco. Only 12% of the population is black. We're in Frisco. You're bluffing. You don't have any, you're trying to make us think you have a weapon in there, but you don't have a weapon in there. We're in Frisco. And you know what Karmelo Anthony said? I'm not from Frisco. And he wasn't from Frisco. His family had moved there from New Orleans, which is one of the highest crime environments in America. So he's trying to suggest you better be scared because I'm not from your low crime community. Karmelo Anthony is saying, I'm from a violent high crime community. So you better be scared of me. But none of the witnesses expected there was actually any weapon in there that they thought they had anything to be scared about. And then another one of these cases where the prosecutor asked this witness, this time a defense witness, Karmelo Anthony was in the wrong. Isn't that true? A finding of fact that really ought to be left to the jury. And the witness goes, the witness for the defense, the witness for Karmelo Anthony says, yeah, Karmelo Anthony was in the wrong, Let's see, what else do we have here? Another defense witness, I believe is defense witness number 4, would never sit under a tent, has never sat under a tent of another team, would never occur to them. You walk by, you say hi, you don't sit under their tent. This is another defense witness and literally saw nothing, was at something of a distance, didn't actually see anything that happened about the stabbing, what preceded the stabbing. And yet this... This is who the defense had to call as a witness. One thing they did claim is that in an earlier statement, they said, I saw Karmelo Anthony surrounded. This is the root of the propaganda that there was some kind of disparity of numbers, attack by Memorial athletes on Karmelo Anthony. It was him against the world. Of course, he had to use a knife to defend himself. That gets addressed on cross-examination. Prosecutor Worski says, you had a few things wrong when we talked back in April, right? Your earlier statements on the record. And the witness says, yeah. The prosecutor, your initial statement to police, you said you saw Karmelo Anthony surrounded. But isn't it true that would have been after the stabbing, when, of course, everyone was crowding in around the scene of the conflict? And the witness says, yes, yes. The prosecutor said, you had a story in your head the last time we talked. Yes. And when you saw the video, when I showed you the video that we have, your eyes were opened to what actually happened. Yes. Prosecutor, when we first met, you thought, when you saw people surrounding Karmelo Anthony, that this was before the stabbing. Yes. But now you know it was actually after the stabbing. The witness, I couldn't really tell. Prosecutor, when we first met, you told me you thought the surrounding of Karmelo Anthony was before the stabbing. The witness, I thought it was as the stabbing was happening. Prosecutor, but now you know you're wrong about that. Witness, yes, sir. Also, have you ever been under another team's tent? No. No, I haven't. He was asked on I think it was on redirect by the defense, isn't it true you saw them surrounding Karmelo Anthony? And the witness goes, well, I wouldn't say it was surrounding. And this is the only witness to ever allege that anybody had been ganging up on Karmelo Anthony. Only one. Oh, here I have a little image here of a transcript. Someone who took notes. Prosecution, you had a story in your head when we visited, correct? Witness, yes. And when you saw the video, your eyes were open to what actually happened that night. Yes. My impression when we first met, you thought when you saw people surrounding Karmelo Anthony was before the stabbing. Witness, yes, sir. That was actually after the stabbing. I couldn't really tell. Well, when you and I met, you told me you thought it was before the stabbing. Witness, I thought it was as the stabbing was happening. Prosecution, you know you're wrong. Witness, yes, I do. After I showed you the video, is it fair to say you didn't want to testify anymore? Witness, well, I wanted to do the right thing. If you'd been under another team's tent and they asked you to leave, would you leave? The answer is yes. This is all horrific. Then they call a police officer, Bo Riley, Crimes Against Children's Unit, and he doesn't have anything to say. He came after the event. He talked to some people. He looked at the phone of the kid who had been pretending to record, and there was no video on it. That's it. And they tried to suggest, well, maybe you didn't do a comprehensive look. He says, I did. It was consent-based. He let me look at his phone, and I was thorough. That's it. There's no video. There's no video. And that's the testimony all the way up until right now. Right now, this extended break, this unexplained break that we're having. Give me 1 second, folks. One of my lights went out here. I've been talking for an hour and a half. I got to grab a power cord. 1 second. There we go. I travel with a little studio, but you know how it works. All right, let me get to super chats and Rumble rants. And oh my gosh, the law of self-defense community. I'll get to you too. Did Melo's knife open with one hand or two? Did he put one or two hands in the bag? I mean, I'm told it was two. Sorry. I'm told he had both hands in the bag. But of course, most of these knives, you open them with one hand. See if I can pull up the image of the knife again. I'll have to take away your comments here. Yeah, so this knife has the little, the little pin at the hinge, so you can easily open it up with one hand. We all know how that works, right? We all carry knives, so you don't need two hands to open it. In fact, I think it might be harder to open with two hands. There's no like little thumb slot in the blade to open it. It would not occur to me to use two hands to open this knife. One hand would be enough. But maybe he was trying to, I don't know what he was trying to pretend with both hands in there. I wouldn't carry a knife for personal protection that I needed two hands to open. That doesn't make any sense. Tread 1775, $5. I'm camping out by my mailbox for the map mug. You found it then. Good. I'm glad to hear it. Tread 1775 gifted 5 memberships to the Branca Show. Well, that's very kind. 5 of you in the YouTube chat just got selected for free membership in the Branca Show. Bonches, $5. If Jack gets to talk about my pillow every time he's on Tim's, make sure you bring up the mug tonight. I don't know if Jack is pretty good friends with Tim. He's on the show a lot. I don't know if I can get away with that. I will. I'm being a little sneaky. I am bringing the mug. The mug will be on the table while I'm on Tim's show. I am doing that. Extended Delta, $5, says the truth is he should have taken a plea. So this is another thing. You can't take a plea that's not offered. The defense doesn't get to decide if they're going to take a plea. The state has to offer a plea. And I don't know why the state would offer a plea here on this evidence. It doesn't make any sense. So, of course, if he were offered a manslaughter plea, he should take that in a second. On these facts, looking at life in prison, but I don't know that the state offered a plea. They decided to roll the dice and hope he'd get off because he's black. Bad advice. Listen, I've been involved in plenty of cases where we had to bring a plea deal to the client. And most of the cases I work on, the clients are good guy cases of self-defense. They have a claim of self-defense. It's legit. It's robust, but it's not invulnerable. And sometimes they're charged with murder. And you go to the client believes they acted in lawful self-defense. And maybe they did. But you never know what a jury's going to do. There's at least a 20% chance, maybe more, that you'll be convicted if we put you in front of a jury. So you got a 20% chance of life in prison or a 100% chance of no more than 10 or 15 years. What do you do? It's a hard decision to make, especially if you don't think you did anything wrong. But there's no way we can tell any client that if we put you in front of a jury, there's a 0 chance of getting convicted, of getting a life sentence. We can't do that. It's not true. It's not true. Let's see. I do have quite a bit more to cover. I know I'm an hour and 40 minutes in, but I have a bunch of other stuff to share with all of you on this case. So if you're willing to hang out, I'm willing to keep going. I do have to catch up on the law of self-defense community stuff. Let's see. This is at lawofselfdefense.com, which is where I usually do my use of force law stuff. Let's see. They're talking about coffee. See all the usual suspects in the chat over at lawofselfdefense.com. Is it possible his attorneys, Elman asked, tried to get a plea deal done and were refused by the prosecution? Yeah, sure. If they should have tried a plea deal on these facts. And the prosecution says, no, why would I do that? Miles Dog, Branca, how does the judge determine whether or not to prosecute lesser included charges? Whether or not you can include lesser includeds, how you include them varies a lot from state to state. I'm not sure how Texas does it. There's some situations where you can't choose a lesser included, or the defense would have to agree to a lesser included or have to request a lesser included. But if I were the prosecution on these facts, I wouldn't go to a lesser included. Why do that? You have murder in the bag on the legal merits. In many cases, it's not at all up to the judge, in the sense that if the parties agree to a lesser included and the evidence can support a lesser included, you have to have that. Then the judge is obliged to instruct on it. If he doesn't give the jury an instruction on the lesser included, it would be reversible error. David Lawson, is there an option for lesser conviction like manslaughter? I don't believe so. I don't believe there's a lesser included in play here. It's murder or nothing. Let's see. Jason says, I believe the judge could put manslaughter back on the table with imperfect self-defense. Maybe, because you can always argue that, Your Honor, even if you would not have given us manslaughter at the start because no one's asked for it, the facts of the case have developed over the course of testimony to support that jury instruction. And you should be giving jury instructions for which there is evidentiary support. And if imperfect self-defense would not have been on the table pre-trial because we had no reason to ask for it, but now evidence has developed that would support imperfect self-defense, you ought to give it. So what is imperfect self-defense? Basically, it's a backdoor way to get to manslaughter, mitigated from murder. So with imperfect self-defense, if you have perfect self-defense, traditional self-defense, what you did, even if you took another human life, is simply not a crime. It was a justified killing, not a crime. But what if you have a slight defect in your claim of self-defense, or the jury believes you have a slight defect? They can't give you perfect self-defense, in which case you don't have perfect self-defense, and it cannot be found that your killing was not a crime. It's some form of crime because you don't have perfect self-defense. What might those defects be? The defect is often something like you were allowed to use force, but not deadly force. So you ended up using deadly force. It was excessive force. The other elements of self-defense, you were still the innocent victim of an attack and all that other stuff is on your side, but you're missing that one component. You can't qualify for perfect self-defense anymore, but you might qualify for imperfect self-defense. Or what if you had a genuine good faith belief in the need to act in self-defense, but that belief was not objectively reasonable? Well, then you can't have perfect self-defense because perfect self-defense has to be objectively reasonable. But you might still, if that's the only defect in your claim of self-defense, you might qualify for imperfect self-defense. And what's the effect of imperfect self-defense? It mitigates what would have been a murder conviction down to a manslaughter conviction. Now, there are different flavors of imperfect self-defense. I've described a couple. Not every state recognizes every flavor. I know Texas recognizes the doctrine of imperfect self-defense. I don't remember offhand what flavor they look at, but both of those could potentially be at play here. And then, then the jury's instructed, well, if you think it was mostly self-defense, but for this slight error, you can mitigate down to manslaughter. Now, that's not the case on the legal merits here. This is nothing like self-defense. It's not almost self-defense, but for a slight mistake. It's just not self-defense. But the jurors might decide to go for a compromise verdict. They don't have to explain to anybody how they arrive at a verdict. They just get to tell you what it is. Stephen Furlong says, questions, are the witness statements about whether it was self-defense grounds for appeal and retrial? Does it matter that the defense counsel did not object? So this is one of the Barnes issues. I'm going to come back to this when I get to Barnes, if that's okay. Ineffective assistance of counsel, someone asks. Well, the lawyers are stuck with what you give them. Are they being ineffective in the sense that it looks really bad for Karmelo Anthony? Yeah, but it's not their fault if he gave them bad facts. They're not being professionally ineffective, incompetent. Stephen Furlong. Oh, this is a funny point. Having Trump's face on that $250 bill will help pay off the national debt because liberals will buy it and burn it. I tell you what, though, what will happen is even conservatives who buy those $250 bills, and I plan to buy a bunch of them if they come true, will never spend them. I'll never spend mine. They'll be collector's items. I'll just put it in the safe and leave it there. My kids and grandkids, 20 years from now, those things will be worth a fortune. So the truth is, when you print up, if you print up $1 trillion at $250 bills, that's just found money for the U.S. government because they're never going to have to honor those, whether they're being locked up in a vault and never spent or whether they're being burned by liberals. That is found money for our nation. Isn't that amazing? Trump is so smart. Scott Bessent is so smart. It's just like it's like Trump was just walking along and he found a paper bag full of $1 trillion for America. What a fantastic idea. Let's see. Yeah, Trump was blessed by the god of trolling. That's the UFC fight or the MMA fight. Let's see. Someone else, it says you're offering a different kind of mug. So I guess I should address that. So this mug is my favorite one, the big one, because it has the big bill on it. But here's the trouble with currency. When you print currency, the federal government says, even if it's novelty currency, like this is novelty, this bill doesn't actually exist, right? And let's be honest, if they do print it, they're probably not putting his mugshot on it. But the general rule is when you print currency, it either has to be 150% or greater the size of actual currency, or 75% or smaller. So on the big mug, the huge mug, the 20-ounce mug, I can meet the 150% requirement. So I can use an extra large bill. That's why it looks so awesome. On the smaller mugs, I can't. The biggest size I can make them on a normal size mug is not 150%. So I can't print that. So I have to make it 75%. So that's why it looks like this on the mug instead of like this on the mug. Nothing I can do about that. Sorry, folks. There you go. But a lot of people they don't want a 20-ounce mug, which is, I understand. It's huge. And then we have the cell phone cases and all the other stuff as well. $5, just no question or comment, just generosity. Thank you, Sassfras. I really appreciate that. And BD Mean, $10. You were my solid favorite during the Rittenhouse trial when you appeared on the Law Tube, Al-Qaeda Roundtable live streams. Thank you for presenting law straightforward and upholding truth. Yeah, those were fun days, weren't they? I still have fun hanging out with Nick. Most of those law tubers, half of them, I don't know, have gone away. Not all law tubers were of the same quality, let me say, from a legal expertise perspective. And Gito463 says, Andrew, you have 323 people on Rumble. Do I really? 325 now. That's huge. I rarely hit triple digits on Rumble. That's amazing. Thank you, guys. Thank you all for hanging out. And I do have more. I do have more I want to talk to you all about. I have a bunch of tabs I set up. The lies that have been happening are just amazing. All the propaganda, like this. Bombshell. Austin Metcalf was suspended from the track team and wasn't supposed to be there that day. It's a complete lie. Complete lie. By the way, people have been saying, it's been reported that Karmelo Anthony was suspended from the track team and wasn't supposed to be there. That's also a lie. Neither one of them was suspended. But it's just a lie. And then this kind of lie. The disparity of numbers attack lie. Getting jumped by people with at least 80 pounds on you who verbalize they were going to beat your ass while standing over you while you're sitting is definitely enough to believe you're in danger of death or serious bodily injury. To say otherwise is ridiculous. Well, that would be true if a word of it was true, but not a word of it is true, as we know from testimony in court. This guy, Black Dominion, writes, don't get into black business and you'll be fine. There was an act of self-defense after Karmelo Anthony was jumped by a bunch of white supremacist thugs. Nobody got jumped. There's zero evidence that Karmelo Anthony was getting jumped by anybody. These lies, and sometimes the lies are actually being spoken by the defense lawyers when they're questioning witnesses as if it were testimony, and immediately contradicted by the witness they're talking to. That's not evidence. That's not evidence. This is one of the worst ones. Well, maybe not the worst ones. It says, Daniel Penny was defending himself from a person confronting other people on a train, which means Karmelo Anthony defended himself from multiple people confronting him about leaving a tent, trying to say, well, if Daniel Penny was not guilty, then Karmelo Anthony has to be not guilty. They're just continuous liars. Continuous liars. Of course, Daniel Penny, I thought I had some dedicated tabs on there. I'm going to wait until I get to those. To talk of the Daniel Penny comparison is completely bogus. Douglas McKay, who I don't know. He seems to be a nice guy, but he gets a lot of stuff wrong on this. He says the fact that Karmelo Anthony had a knife when and where he wasn't supposed to is not about whether he violated the letter of the law. It speaks to motive. It speaks to premeditation and malice aforethought. In other words, first-degree murder. And folks, the truth is, from my perspective, that whether or not the knife was lawful or just a violation of school rules, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You don't need that. Let's pretend that the school allowed you to bring a knife, that there's no Texas law against bringing a knife on campus. Let's pretend Karmelo Anthony's possession of the knife was perfectly lawful. It's still murder. It's still murder. He fails every element of murder. It was an intentional stabbing, whether the knife was lawful or not. And people are saying, well, you can't prove it's premeditated. Like this account. This is the worst. Whoops. This is the worst account. Sorry, folks. On all this stuff, in terms of propagating lies, says addressing the issue of murder. Well, first of all, this person says there's no first-degree murder in Texas. There's no degrees of murder. It's just murder. Folks, if you look in the Texas murder statute, it's either a first-degree felony or a second-degree felony. So people get wrapped up around these semantics. It's true they don't have different statutes that say first-degree murder and second-degree murder. I don't know what the substantive disagreement is supposed to be. But this account, American Freedmen Legal Fund, they are a horror. They get everything wrong. They're completely black supremacist, racist. They say, well, the prosecution can't show premeditation. Like you need a shopping list, like I talked about before. Rope, duct tape. Does this smell like chloroform to you? If you don't have that, there's no premeditation. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. The premeditation, the intentionality is shown by the fact that Karmelo Anthony intentionally shoved the knife through Austin Metcalf's sternum into his heart. And he's not saying it was an accident. He's claiming self-defense, which means he did it on purpose. That's intentional. And then the same account says, well, we don't actually know he intentionally stabbed him in the heart. He's not a doctor or a medical student. So how would he intentionally be stabbing Austin Metcalf in the heart? We're supposed to believe, or at least this account apparently believes, that black people are too stupid to know where the human heart is located, that it's placed roughly in the center of the chest. Only a doctor or a medical student would know this, not a black American. That's what they believe. That's amazing. Another person can't get this notion of premeditation. It's a huge leap to claim premeditation. It requires evidence that he decided to kill beforehand, not merely that he possessed a knife and later, passive voice, used it during a confrontation. Premeditated murder requires evidence of prior intent. The prior intent is the instant you make the decision, and it's evidenced by the conduct. As I say here, the intentional act of stabbing Austin intentionally in the chest. That's the premeditation. It forms in an instant. It doesn't require a lengthy plan. Killer Karmelo concedes he stabbed Austin in the chest intentionally. He must concede intentionality to argue self-defense at all, because self-defense is an inherently intentional act. There is no unintentional or accidental self-defense. The intentional use of violence against another is inherently premeditated, unless you want to argue manslaughter, but manslaughter is not a play in this trial. And the knife was unlawful. No, it wasn't. Yes, it was. Or he was trespassing. No, he wasn't. Yes, he was. It's all irrelevant. It's not necessary. The knife Karmelo Anthony intentionally punched through the sternum and heart of Austin Metcalf for no legally justified reason is more than enough to arrive at a proper verdict of guilty of first-degree murder and a life sentence as a prison bitch. I just threw that in. By the way, when I said this, he punched the knife through the sternum of Austin Metcalf, the sternum and heart. I had one of these black guys come to me saying, so you're saying he got stabbed twice? You can't make this stuff up. No, sir. I'm not saying he got stabbed twice. That is not what I'm saying. This stuff too, the size disparity. Let's see. Oh, just don't put hands on people. Don't put hands on people. If you don't put hands on people, if you don't want the consequences. He warned Austin Metcalf just like a police officer warns attackers. Why didn't Austin Metcalf follow his orders? So now Austin Metcalf is obliged to follow the orders of Karmelo Anthony, who's in Austin's team tent, but Karmelo Anthony is not obliged to follow the orders of Austin Metcalf. What gave Austin Metcalf the right to touch him? Well, maybe nothing. Maybe when Austin Metcalf touched Karmelo Anthony, he was committing a simple assault. Maybe he could have been charged with simple assault for that. But the consequence for committing a simple assault legally is not getting stabbed in the heart. If the consequence of touching someone softly, according to witnesses, is a knife to the heart, that's obviously just murder. Just murder. Then they don't like provocation. Provocation is not some magic word that ends self-defense because someone on X says so. It has to be proven from the facts in context. Well, all right, here's the facts in context. Karmelo Anthony, touch me and see what happens. Austin Metcalf touches him. What happens? Murder. Murder happened. The size disparity. This is another one. Austin was 6'1" and 250 pounds with jiu-jitsu training, much bigger than Karmelo at 135 pounds. Okay, well, here's the thing, though. You can't stab someone in the chest because they're bigger than you and have BJJ training. Can you just walk up and stab me in the chest because I'm 6'1" and 220 and study BJJ? No, obviously not. What is wrong with you people? The low IQ, I swear it'll be the end of me. It'll be the end of me. Some of these I've touched upon. This account says, sounds like a plea deal is imminent with this long delay. This would likely lessen the chance of any rioting. Maybe. I don't know why we'd be offering a plea deal. All right, here's the Robert Barnes stuff. So someone had sent this to me. Would like to see you, Andrew. Do I have it up? Yeah, okay. Debate Barnes on these three topics. It would be sure to get some engagement. So here are Barnes' topics. Problems with the Karmelo Anthony trial. 1, excluding all black jurors from a jury with a black defendant. Presumably when he says problems, he means reversible error type of problems. 2, rushing the trial with 90-minute jury selection, 20-minute opening statements, and Saturday trial days. Reversible error. 3, asking lay witnesses to opine, meaning non-experts, to opine on ultimate jury questions and legal issues. Okay. Well, someone asked me, you should debate Barnes on that. And I said, I rather doubt Barnes has any interest in debating me on these topics, but I can tell you what I feel about him. So excluding black jurors from a jury with a black defendant, excluding black jurors for racist reasons for any kind of defendant is prohibited. It's unconstitutional, and it's grounds for reversal if there's a conviction. But excluding black jurors, there are legitimate reasons to exclude black jurors. They don't have a magic right to be on a jury. If they're telling the court they're unable to be unbiased and impartial, they must be excluded. It's perfectly permissible. In fact, it's required. And not only do they not have a right to be on the jury, a black defendant has no right to black jurors. That's not a thing. So assuming these black jurors were excluded for legitimate reasons, that's not reversible error. And I don't know that we have any reason to believe otherwise. 2, all these decisions about how long jury selection took and how long opening statements can be, 20 minutes is kind of a little short for an opening statement, maybe in this high profile case. 90 minutes for jury selection. But the thing is, these are never going to be reversible error. These are decisions that the appellate courts leave to the trial court judges, leave to their discretion. If 90 minutes was enough to choose an unbiased, impartial jury, that the requirement is an unbiased and impartial jury. It's not a certain amount of time. If you could do it in 5 minutes, 5 minutes is fine. You don't have to take weeks to seat a jury like we see in many of these high-profile cases. So I don't understand that the jury selection was too fast. That's not a thing. The opening statements, they were only allowed 20 minutes. The judge gets to decide that. So this is not that complicated a story. Why would you need more than 20 minutes? I can see the judge making that call. That'll never be reversed. So I just don't. Now, listen, I'm not perfect. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Robert's aware of cases in which these issues were appealed. The opening statement was too short, and therefore the conviction has to be reversed. Maybe that kind of case law exists. I've never seen it. But before I make the effort of researching it, if Robert is aware of any cases like that he could bring to my attention, I'm happy to look at them. I just don't see it happening. It could have happened, but it would not be my expectation. And three, and this is the biggest one for me because I run into this all the time. The asking lay witnesses to opine on ultimate jury questions. So this is when it could be either side, but I think it was mostly the prosecution doing this. So was this self-defense? No, the witness says. There was deadly force against non-deadly force. Do you think this was murder? Yes, another witness. Do you think did this look like self-defense to you? No. These are the ultimate jury questions. The jury is supposed to decide, was murder proven beyond a reasonable doubt? Was self-defense not proven beyond a reasonable doubt? I can tell you that when I'm an expert witness in a use of force case and I'm talking to the jury about the law of self-defense, I'm not allowed to tell the jury, I've done my legal analysis and this is self-defense. I'm not allowed. I've never been allowed. I would never do this. I would never purport to do this. It's not my role to make that decision. The ultimate jury question, is this self-defense? Yes or no. I don't make that decision. When I'm, and of course, normally I'm an expert witness for the defense, and the state is very careful about this. That they're because I have to be, I'm subject to voir dire. I have to qualify as an expert outside the hearing of the jury. So basically, they're asking me, well, what is it you plan to say? And the prosecution is generally like, listen, we want to make very clear. The judge is going to tell you. We want the judge to tell you that you are not allowed to express an ultimate jury question. You are not allowed to conclude for the jury that this was or was not self-defense. That's the jury's decision. And I always say, yeah, that's absolutely right. I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to do that. What my job is to explain to the jury how to get to the right answer. In other words, my job is to explain to the jury, how do you understand whether it was self-defense? What are the characteristics that would qualify something as self-defense or not qualify? So I talk about the 5 elements of self-defense: innocence, imminence, proportionality, avoidance, and reasonableness. And I'll show how the evidence presented in the case fits within each of those elements. But whether or not it satisfies an element or fails to satisfy an element, and therefore it is or is not self-defense, that's for the jury to decide. So here's the dirty little secret. If you let me define the question and you let me define the roadmap that's being presented to the jury, I can pretty much guarantee what conclusion they're going to come to, right? If you're telling the story, you know what the conclusion of the story is going to be. But as a matter of fact, Robert's right. No witness, not just a lay witness, but I would suggest not even an expert witness like me, should be telling the jury this is or is not self-defense. But it's happening. It's happening with lay witnesses. The prosecution is asking a student athlete, was this self-defense? And they're saying no. And is that odd to my ear? And the answer is yeah. I'm really surprised that's being allowed. But here's the thing. Again, it's not, I mean, the judge might step in and say, hey, you're not allowed to opine on an ultimate jury question. Don't do that. But really, it's the other party that's supposed to object. They're supposed to object. And then the judge will say, yeah, they're right. They objected and they're right. So you can't do that. But if the other side's not objecting, the judge doesn't have to do anything. And keep in mind, the judge is ultimately going to tell the jurors, you may have heard people talk about the law and what's lawful and not lawful. None of that is evidence. And you're not allowed to rely on their representations of what the law is. You have to rely on the judge's representations of what the law is. I'm going to give you the jury instructions. That's the law you need to apply. So to whatever extent anybody in the course of the trial made any representations to you about what the law is or is not, you are to ignore that. You are only to apply the instructions I give you. And generally, that's curative of any in-trial statement of the law by the parties. But even worse, I've not yet seen one journalist mention that the defense has objected to any of this. And if you don't object, not only is it allowed to happen, but it's not preserved for appeal. So even if it turns out later to have been an error to allow this, it's not a preserved error. And the appellate courts won't reverse on it. So that's my take on that. Does it strike my ear as odd that they're asking high school athletes, was this self-defense? And the athletes are allowed to say yes? It is odd. But doesn't that mean it would be grounds for reversal? Not if it's cured by the judge before the jury deliberates, not if it's not objected to and not preserved for appeal. And it's one of my concerns when I say, like, I don't know that I can trust a journalist to catch these things because they're not lawyers. So there may be objections and they're just letting it go because the journalists never know what the objections are about. But we just can't know. Let's see. A couple more things. Yeah, so this account asked me, well, is the defense objecting? And I have to say, well, I haven't seen any objections. I haven't seen any. Maybe they are, and the journalists just aren't reporting it. But if they're not, they're not preserving these for appeal. So it makes a big deal whether or not they're objecting. I would like to know. Someone said I'm going to cry. Did I already share this one? Mr. Mayonnaise Man? I can't remember. I've been talking for a couple hours now. Mr. Mayonnaise Man, just stop. I want to see how red your face gets once Karmelo and Chud gets convicted. Listen, nothing juries do surprise me. Juries are dangerous and unpredictable creatures. I mentioned earlier that not all Black people are on the crazy side of the scale. There's plenty who are not. And this is one of them. Andre Williams, he follows me. I like his stuff. I'm going to give him a follow back right now in real time. He writes, and he does video too, so it's not just an avatar. This is what he actually looks like. Austin Metcalf's murder highlights a lot of things about Black people. Now, I want to make clear, this is him saying this. I'm just reading it. This is Andre Williams, who I believe to be a Black man. He writes, Austin Metcalf's murder highlights a lot of things about Black people. 1, Black people are quick to extreme violence in easily diffusable situations. 2, this case highlights how Black people kill each other every day. Unfortunately, Austin Metcalf is a victim in an example outside of the community. But within the Black community, this kind of stuff happens all the time. 3, Black people are widely politically illiterate and refuse to do research. I would say legally illiterate. Do research and only act on emotion rather than evidence. And 4, I'm not going to read this aloud. N words are tribal. The soft N are tribal. And I just thought, that's kind of a provocative statement about Black people from a Black man. And we get, of course, the nonsense. I'm not going to waste our time reading all of that. The last couple tabs I want to share are these. And it doesn't involve Karmelo Anthony. It just popped up in the news because we had a stabbing at Penn Station in New York City. A lunatic starts running around the station, stabbing people, stabbed 5 people before he got caught. And this is, if you haven't been there, it's a wide open station. I mean, there's room to run. Now, there's lots of people and maybe you can't run fast enough. Maybe you're not as fast as the bad guy. But it's not like everyone is trapped in, say, inside a subway car. That would make a difference, right? If this lunatic with a knife was inside a crowded subway car, you think he'd be limited to stabbing 5 people? Or you think he'd stab a lot of people? You'd think every man, woman, and child on that train would be in legitimate fear of being stabbed and killed by that notional lunatic trapped in a subway car with them. Because that's exactly the scenario that we were dealing with Daniel Penny. Remember Daniel Penny? Put Jordan Neely in I don't even think it was a chokehold, a seatbelt hold, took him to the ground. Why? Well, this was exactly the situation everyone on that subway car was in fear of. As I write here, this Penn Station knife attack by a raving lunatic, homeless person, is what everyone on Daniel Penny's subway car had every reason to believe was about to happen to all of them. Men, women, and children trapped with that raving lunatic, lifelong drug addict, Jordan Neely, threatening them explicitly with imminent murder. What do you think they were thinking? Oh, that could never happen. He's just bluffing. This kind of shit happens in New York all the time. Daniel Penny heard that, saw that, realized the implications, and took Jordan Neely to the ground. And he didn't choke Jordan Neely to death. Jordan Neely was alive when the police got to him, when they turned over custody. Jordan Neely died the same way George Floyd died. He died because he was a lifelong drug addict with a severely impaired physiology, and he exerted himself beyond the limits of that physiology. He just turned off. It happens all the time with people like this, typically in police arrest situations. They turn off, and no one is more shocked than the officers. They're like, holy shit, he's dead. His body turned him off. No one is more surprised, I'm sure, that Jordan Neely ended up dead than Daniel Penny. And look how he was treated, right? Terrible. Put at risk of life in prison. Daniel Penny, the hero, was treated differently because he's white. He was treated that way because he's white. And Jordan Neely, even though a raving, lunatic, lifelong drug addict, threatening men, women, and children trapped in a subway car, he was black. So he's always the victim. And the white guy, no matter how heroic, is always the bad actor that needs to be punished by the system. And that's why people talk about fatigue. All right, I'm going to take another news at the headlines here. Let's see what we got. All right, so this is a new headline from J.D. Miles, Dallas CBS reporter, old school reporter, I'm thinking, not an independent journalist. He writes, court was scheduled to resume at 12:30 Central Time. So that would have been 1:30 Eastern Time, where I am. It's currently 2 hours past that. In the Karmelo Anthony murder trial, it's almost 2, so that would be 3 Eastern. Now it's 3:20, and we're still waiting to go back into the courtroom with no explanation from the judge or attorneys who are inside. Lots of speculation from the court watchers that I won't go into. You're a journalist, my friend. But as soon as we're allowed back inside, I will let everybody know what's going on. Mary Ann Martinez, look at that smile. 9 minutes ago says we're going back into the court. All right, they're going back in. This is all happening live, my friends. As close to live as we can get without a live stream. Sarah Fields doesn't have anything new here. I'm going to stick with, let's see what Mary Ann Martinez has to say. This is it. I'll show it to you. Is it up here? We're going back into the courtroom. That was 9 minutes ago. So that was at about 3:15 Eastern Time, 2:15 Texas time. Let me catch up on some of these super chats. The Rumble rant stopped, huh? Rumble people have to go back to work. Let me take a look at Law of Self-Defense members before I do super chats in fairness. Let's see. Oh, Nate the lawyer is who I was talking about earlier. The gentleman who was a cop and a prosecutor, has a bad eye, has had brain surgery. I had that debate with him where he crashed out. Nate the lawyer. Sorry, Nate. I wasn't trying not to remember your name. I blanked on it. Let's see. A question, what if the election of punishment if found guilty, judge or jury? You know what? I actually don't remember how Texas does it. So in most states, you're convicted by the jury. That's the guilt phase. And then the sentencing phase is in the control of the judge. Control limited by guidelines. States have sentencing guidelines. But the jury typically plays no role in punishment. There are exceptions, though. There are a few states in which the jury does. The jury always plays a role in capital punishment. So if it were a capital case, the jury has to find guilt, and then the jury has to vote for capital punishment. But if it's not a capital punishment case, in most states, the jury does guilty, not guilty, then they're done. They're dismissed, and the whole sentencing thing is in the hands of the judge, bound by sentencing guidelines. But there are a handful of states in which the jury does also play a role in sentencing, and Texas might be one of those. I don't remember offhand. I'm going to ask Grok, which sometimes lies. In Texas, does the jury play a role in sentencing in murder trials? Let's see what Grok has to say. Yes, in Texas, the jury often plays a significant role in sentencing in murder trials, though it depends on whether the case is a standard murder or capital murder. Well, I'm only talking about standard. Oh, I see. Here we go. So non-capital, which is what we're dealing with here. Grok says the defendant can elect before trial, before he knows whether he's going to be found guilty or not guilty, to have the jury assess the punishment if convicted. This is a distinctive feature of Texas procedure. Most states leave sentencing to the judge. If the defendant does not elect jury sentencing pre-trial, then the judge will select. Well, I wonder if we know. Do we know? Did Karmelo Anthony choose pre-trial to have his jury determine his sentencing if convicted? It's kind of a weird dynamic, right? Because what you're basically saying then is you're saying, I want the same jury that just found me guilty also to set my sentence. But the answer, according to Grok, is yes. In Karmelo Anthony's murder trial in Collin County, Texas, the defense elected pre-trial to have the jury determine sentencing. Reported from in news coverage, NBC, WFAA, which must be a local news agency. So they're relying on journalist reports. The sentencing range is a minimum of 5 to a maximum of 99 years or life. So there'd be a separate punishment phase. I imagine it's kind of like a mini trial just for sentencing. Yeah, where the jury hears additional evidence on mitigation, character, victim impact before setting the sentence. So that's interesting to know. I did not know that. Viva Fry just sent me a message asking me if I want to come on a show. Hold on. I asked him if I can be a few minutes. I mean, I am almost done here, and it's coming up on 3:30. So if I can be a few minutes late, and if you can send me a link that I can share with all of you, if you want to follow me over there. Let's see, where was I? Not that. Oh, hold on a second. I lost my own show. All right, super chats. Trump has been taking down the City of London Corporation, also known as the Square Mile. We'll all be better off in years ahead. You know, I hear that, and is it Prometheus or Promethean? There's a YouTube channel. It's a I don't mean to be insulting, and a gracefully older lady who does some really interesting analysis on all this world economics and London stuff. She looks like she does tremendous work. That stuff is not really in my wheelhouse, so it's hard for me to have an informed opinion about it. But it sounds good, like we're directionally correct for America. Sir George, Florida, $5. You could put 2 bills on top of each other on the small mugs. Probably too late for that. You know, I tried to do that. It just didn't look very good. I tried 2. I tried 4. I just couldn't get it to work out correctly. Maybe that was a mistake on my part. A new member, welcome to the family, Sue. Love having you here. 1776, David Jack says no. Oh, he gave 1776. It's very nice. No opinion to share. Just wanted to say thanks for your coverage over the years. Been watching since Rittenhouse and the days of the Law to Papacy. That would be my buddy Nick Ricada. Coming down to Charleston sometime soon. I'm going to be in Charleston soon, believe it or not. In the next few weeks, I'll be in Charleston, where my wife convinced me, instead of flying out to the East Coast, we're going to drive the car. So we're going to hit Charleston. We're going to hit Savannah. We're going to hit New Orleans. These are all cities I've been to many times on the motorcycle, but she's never been. So we're going to do a road trip, just me and her. The kids are going to stay with family. So that'll be fun. But yeah, we'll be coming to Charleston. Weathermark Outdoors. Do you think the defense is going to say he's from Baton Rouge? Oh, is he from Baton Rouge, not New Orleans? Doesn't matter for the crime rate, really. I just remembered it was Louisiana with high crime rates. So it would be common for him to carry weapons. And seeing you on X straight dismantled these low IQ takes. Yeah, if you don't follow me on X, at The Branca Show, you should definitely do that. It's a lot of fun. I'm almost at 200,000 followers on X. Where am I right now? Yeah. I'm at 197.7. So yeah, another 2,300 followers. I'll be at 200,000 followers on X, which doesn't really mean anything, but it's a nice round number. I appreciate it. Let's see. Get the fathers. Oh, don't forget, I'll be on Tim Pool tonight. 8 p.m. Eastern time. So Timcast IRL. Catgirl, $5. Great show. I always learn more than I thought I already knew about laws, about self-defense. Thank you. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the support. £2 sterling. Credit to potential jurors for honesty and selection. Yeah, and it's nice to see. I've seen too many cases where jurors lie to get on the jury to enact social justice. Are you kidding me right now? $5. I bet you own a cat. 17-year police sergeant wife, thank you for your level-headed, reasonable, factual coverage. Our department is already bracing for fallout. Oh, is that where you are? Are you in Frisco? Of course, it could be bad elsewhere too, right? We all remember the summer of love. Me mama, $2 super sticker. Thank you very much. T Talks 93 gifted 5 memberships. That's very generous of you. Mac, $2. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. Can they reach a plea deal at this stage? I mean, if the prosecution agrees, the prosecution can do a plea deal anytime. I don't know why they would agree on legal merits. They might have political reasons, but thank you for the $10. $10, 4,000 viewers. Congratulations. No kidding. That's huge for me. I don't get those kind of numbers. Thank you for sharing and parse your legal knowledge and wisdom with us. Well, I'm very pleased you're all here. It's very humbling. A member for 12 months. Mug idea. Mr. Mayonnaise. Making current events more palatable. How funny. Thanks for a year of information and inspiration. He's been a member for 12 months. That's great. I really appreciate that. How are we doing for Rumble Rants? I think we're good. Let me check on, let's see. The law of self-defense. What did I do at my membership page with the law of self-defense page? I lost it. I'll open it up again. Lawofselfdefense.com is where I do most of my use of force law stuff. You should check that out. Let's see. I got to sign in like I'm a member of my own programming. Question: How do we know that he stabbed through the sternum, or did he stab up under the sternum? No, medical examiner was the sternum. It was right in the center of the chest, and I think it gouged up to the left 2.5 inches. Steve Furlong, do you know when you'll next offer the all-day law of self-defense class? I want my son to watch, and we'll push him to get a platinum membership. Well, we are planning to do the free webinar again this coming week. I think Thursday and Saturday. So we do a free webinar, a 2.5 hour, roughly a 2-hour webinar where we talk about self-defense law and how to be hard to convict. And as part of that, we explain how to get our full day course for free. So if you're interested, go to Hard to Convict, lawofselfdefense.com/hard to convict. I don't think I have an image for that. I don't think we updated it. We just decided when I was going to, we only usually do it once or twice a year. But I'm going to be on Tim Pool, and we just at the last minute decided to do schedule some free. They're 100% free. Just go to hardtoconvict.com. Hardtoconvict.com will get you to that. Now I lost my show. I think I have a banner for that I can put up. Let's see. Yeah. Here you go. The date is incorrect. The date is incorrect. It's Thursday and Friday of this week, but that's the same link. Hardtoconvict.com. Just check it out. Check it out. You can register there, and it's free. It doesn't cost a penny. But it's a much more detailed, in plain English, but detailed explanation for if you're compelled to defend yourself, your family, or your property, how can you make yourself difficult to convict by a prosecutor? George says the defense has rested. All right, defense has rested. Defense has rested. Thanks for bringing that to my attention. Let's see what I can find out on the news. Thank you, guys. Well, that's it, huh? Now closing arguments. Yep, here's a news report. Defense has rested. Jury's being dismissed for the day. Call back tomorrow for closing arguments from both sides. All right, so it's over. Proceedings are over for the day. Let me see if Viva wants me on the show. I'm going to join Viva over there in just a second. I am going to wrap up this stream. So, hey, thanks for being here, everybody. I'll be over in Viva as soon as I can figure out how to log in on his thing, and I'll see you all over there. All right. Until I do, I remain Attorney Andrew Branca for The Branca Show. Stay safe.